Hi, everybody. Welcome to Module 9. I hope you're doing well, and I hope you enjoyed the Michael Fullan book, Coherence, or you're enjoying it as this module is the finishing of the book and writing a reflection paper. So I've got so many ideas and so many prompts and so many thoughts when I read this book that I kind of inundated you with some options. So you choose whichever way you want to go when you look at the actual assignment. But there's so much in here. And it's actually telegraphing the final project, which will be coming up. And I'm going to do a separate video and guidelines and stuff for it. But basically, you're going to be writing a strategic plan for your school or for your district or for your organization. And between the strategy and action work, the articles on leadership, Cotter, and especially bringing it all together with Fullan's Coherence, that's kind of the way that the final project will go. And there'll be an audience for you to present it to, and which I'll go over and all that coming up soon. So Fullan's whole idea of coherence was really is really important. So again, I hope you enjoyed that. I hope you're enjoying that book. You know, he talks about a couple of key terms that I want to emphasize, though. The whole idea versus internal and external accountability, right? And the drivers that push both. We actually will be looking coming up at a case study that talks a lot about that, kind of a principal's dilemma. So that'll be coming up in a few modules, but there's so many different forces as leaders pushing us, and they're competing interests. And the strength of the leader is how to navigate all of that. And you don't always get it right, believe me. But if you can accept that, kind of understand that, and know the wisdom in not always having to be right, but that it's progress, not perfection. And if you're anchored in the students, if you went with what they were talking about with Liz City and Elmore, if you're anchored in the instructional core or high quality instruction, then if that's steering you and guiding you, then you're probably going to be in a good place. And again, I think about all of the external factors happening even with COVID, with masks and with protocols and with guidelines. And, those are true leadership dilemmas. And trying to be anchored in doing what's right and what's safe doesn't mean you're going to make everybody happy. So keep that in mind. But I think in the sense of, he talks also about that transparency and leadership and why that's so important. You don't always have to agree with me, but I always want you to understand where I'm coming from. And sometimes, as I used to tell my staff all the time, sometimes it'll be a have to. Most of the time it'll be collaborative and what do you think? But every once in a while, I've got to say this needs to happen. So I'm not asking, you know what I mean? And if you do it in a transparent way and a consistent way, and what is perceived as a fair way, the leader that does that, I think, is the leader where the staff is going to get behind you and support you, and therefore support the organization in a strong way. When we talk about accountability, I think about, even in my current district, the whole idea of test scores and how COVID has upended the whole idea of being able to compare data, whether it's the SBAC if you're in Connecticut, or the Regents, or wherever you're from, SATs, things like that. And I've always looked at those tests. I've always looked askance at the test, as many educators do. We know that they're important, but those summative high stake tests are just a snapshot in time and don't always reflect all of the progress that's going on. So then you talk about the idea of a lagging indicator, right? So when I get those SAT scores, or when I get those state science scores or any of those, I usually get them in the summer, and the kids, that cohort is already on to the next grade, or in high school, many of them have already graduated. So those lagging indicators that you get later, the AP test scores, things like that, are necessary and a way for the general public to kind of wrap their head around, their arms around how schools are doing. But I don't think they're as important as the leading indicators. Now, follow me on this for a second. A leading indicator is something like high quality instruction. It's like critical thinking and student, active student engagement. Those processes, those tasks that are going to get you to success in growth throughout the year with a student, that in theory will usually culminate in a successful increase in the lagging indicators. So it's an interesting concept if you're in the mood to look up the two and consider them. I'd always put my money on the leading indicators. Those are my big bets. But I also understand as a leader, especially in public education, that those lagging indicators, those test scores, are a reality and can't be discounted. But I think everything could be put in context if you do it in a transparent way. Just something to think about. So good luck. Enjoy Module 9. Enjoy Fullan. We've got a case study coming up in Module 10 that I'm going to talk about next time. But in the meantime, you guys take care of yourselves, and we'll talk soon.